It's Monday, January 25th, and the time for your Barbados Today morning news update. Barbados has recorded its 10th COVID-19 related death. The 91-year-old Barbadian woman went to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital's Accident and Emergency Department on Saturday, January 23rd, suffering from acute respiratory symptoms. According to the Ministry of Health and Wellness, the elderly lady, who also has a history of hypertension and diabetes, was tested for the virus given her symptoms and transferred to the Specialized Infectious Diseases Unit at Enmore following a positive result. She passed away on Sunday morning. Meantime, Health Minister Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic is urging all residents and, importantly, elderly persons to seek medical help early if they are having difficulty breathing or experiencing flu-like symptoms. He is also reminding the public to wear masks and to follow all other health protocols. Families and members of the same household are also being urged to exercise care in their interactions with each other. Meanwhile, the country recorded 46 new COVID-19 cases on Saturday. This includes 29 males and 17 females who are now in isolation, bringing the total number of active cases in the country to 744. A male staff member at Dodds Prison was also among the latest persons to test positive. As a result, the cases from HMP Dodds have moved to 360, comprising of 102 staff members and 258 inmates. At the same time, 12 people have been discharged from isolation, pushing the number of recoveries to 634. Barbados has recorded 1,387 COVID-19 cases to date. That comprises of 546 females and 841 males. Barbados has reportedly requested India's help in accessing COVID-19 vaccines. According to international media reports, Prime Minister Mia Mottley, in a letter addressed to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, said Barbados was in urgent need of his country's assistance and support. She requested access to 200,000 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine being manufactured in India to vaccinate 100,000 citizens, including persons who are on the front line of the COVID-19 response across the medical, protective services, and border agencies. According to the letter, Prime Minister Mia Mottley asked her counterpart to consider supplying half of the doses, and if necessary, Barbados would be willing to purchase the other 100,000 doses. The letter comes at a time when the international community has praised India's support to the global COVID-19 response. Opposition leader Bishop Joseph Atherley has welcomed the government's official declaration of community spread of COVID-19 in the country. On Saturday, Health Minister Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic announced that officials were no longer able to trace the source of some COVID-19 cases being recorded in the community. However, Bishop Atherley says while he appreciated the formal announcement, information on whether the new strain of the virus is present in the country is also of great importance.
I'm glad that government has acknowledged it. They're aware of it. Let's deal with it. What we have not yet acknowledged, and whether or not the reality exists that one of the new variants is on the ground here in Barbados. I can't say that it is, but one would be suspicious of the growing spread of this thing. If the variant is here, let's admit that and deal with that as well. You can't be evading that issue by giving half-baked answers. It's been 3-4 weeks now when that issue was first raised, and we've had every time a different response to the matter. Now we're hearing that we have to stand in queue. There's a queue in terms of getting assistance and that type of thing from CARFA. We have to stand in line and stand in the queue. This thing is urgent. And there are other queues, and we're looking to get ahead of the line in those instances. I hear today, we're looking to get vaccines out of India. So we're looking to get ahead of the queue. You can't just sit back and say, we're waiting on CARFA, there's a queue, and as soon as the assistance comes through in terms of helping us to identify whether or not the variant is here, then we will speak to that and address that. We've got to show a greater degree of urgency about that.
The leader of the People's Party for Democracy and Development says he's waiting to see what other measures will be implemented to get a handle on the current situation.
I think that anything that protects the health of Barbados is to be considered seriously. Obviously, there are perils to the economy involved with some of the responses that we make, but I think the national health and well-being comes first. The economy matters not if people aren't alive. If you understand, if people aren't alive, there's still no economy. And I don't want to say that government must ignore the reality relative to livelihoods, but certainly there's a certain priority attaching to life. And if it is necessary that we have a brief lockdown, government gets a better handle of the situation, long term it is better. If we don't, long term, the peril, we're exposed more so to that peril and things become worse for us, even with respect to the economy as well.
The Royal Barbados Police Force is implementing several measures to ensure that the safety of the public is not compromised after a number of officers from various small units tested positive for COVID-19. Barbados today has been reliably informed that the RBPF has been drawing on resources from within the force with similar training. The top brass has recalled over 40 police officers from vacation leave, as well as deployed members of the police force band, who are also trained officers to augment any shortages. According to the source, less than a dozen police officers are currently in isolation, while the decision to have all members of the K9 unit tested and quarantined following a positive COVID-19 case are consistent with the force's protocols. Barbados today understands the results of those tests are expected soon.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from the region, Trinidad and Tobago's health minister has made it clear that there will be no knee-jerk reaction to the single case of the UK COVID-19 variant recently recorded in the country. More from TV6 News.
Because of the quarantine protocols and the fact that the variant strain has not been detected in the general population, Minister of Health Terence Yelsing says, as concerning as it might be, the government would be making informed decisions.
There's one case so far, but we are continually reviewing the evidence. At this point in time, it is not the intention of the Ministry of Health to recommend any restrictions, further restrictions. That is counterproductive. It is too early to make knee-jerk panic reactions. We don't do that.
From September 2020 to date, the genomes of 94 samples have been sequenced by the University of the West Indies to test for the variant strains.
And finally, Israel begins vaccinating 16 to 18-year-olds against COVID-19 in an effort to enable them to sit exams. More from Reuters TV.
Taking a break from study, teenagers in Israel are rolling up their sleeves as the country expanded its COVID-19 vaccination drive Sunday to include 16 to 18-year-olds. The government says it's an effort to ensure their attendance at school exams. Israel, which has the world's fastest vaccine distribution rate, is hoping to begin reopening its economy next month. 17-year-old Noga says she got vaccinated in a bid to return to normal and succeed in her final exams. The health ministry says Israel has given at least one dose to more than 25% of its population of 9 million since December 19. The vaccines were initially limited to the elderly and other high-risk categories, but are now available to anyone over 40 or, with parental permission, those between 16 and 18. Israel has been under a third national lockdown since December 27, which it plans to lift at the end of January. But its education minister said it's still too early to know if schools would reopen next month.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.